The last family reunion. They handed me the envelope right after the blessing. The backyard was strung with fairy lights, the grill still smoking from ribs and burgers, kids running through the sprinkler like it was any other 4th of July. My oldest son, Daniel, stood up with that practiced grin he used at work presentations. "Mom, we made something special for you. Read it out loud so everyone can hear." I smiled, still believing after all these years that they meant it kindly. The card was thick cardstock, the front covered in red, white and blue stars the grandkids had colored. I opened it slowly. The words were typed in large font, with little fireworks doodles around the edges. "Roses are red. Violets are blue. You're 78 and washed up. This family's done with you." Laughter erupted before I finished the last line. Daniel threw his head back. His wife Lauren clapped her hands over her mouth, eyes watering from how hard she was laughing. My daughter Rebecca snorted wine through her nose. The teenagers pulled out phones to record. Even little Ava, only 6, giggled because the grown-ups were. Fireworks popped in the distance, but the sound that cut deepest was my own family's amusement at my expense. The card slipped from my shaking fingers and landed in the grass. I stared at it, the crayon fireworks blurring through sudden tears. "It's just a roast, Mom," Daniel said, still chuckling. "Lighten up. You've always taken everything so personally." Personally. I looked around the yard. At the picnic table I'd built with my own hands in 1992, at the swing set I'd paid for in 2005, at the faces I had fed, clothed, comforted, financed for nearly 6 decades, and saw strangers. I stood up slowly. My knees ached from standing too long at the grill earlier, but I didn't wince. "I think I'll go home now," I said. Silence dropped like a stone. Then Lauren whispered something to Daniel, and the laughter started again. Quieter, nervous, like they were waiting for me to turn it into a joke. No one walked me to the gate. No one said, "We love you." No one said, "Stay." I drove the 40 minutes back to the little ranch house on the edge of town with the windows down. The summer night air smelled of cut grass and distant gunpowder. Tears dried on my cheeks before they could fall far. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light was off. I hadn't bothered to leave it on anymore. Inside, I sat at the kitchen table in the dark. The same table where I'd taught Daniel multiplication, where Rebecca practiced her valedictorian speech, where we'd eaten birthday cakes and argued over report cards and cried together when their father died. I opened the bottom drawer of the old pine hutch. Folders, bank statements, property records, investment printouts. I had never shown them to anyone. Not because I was hiding. Because I didn't want them to feel obligated, or worse, entitled. For 58 years I had built more than a life. I had built a safety net. Quietly. For them. Their father, my high school sweetheart, died of leukemia when Daniel was 9 and Rebecca was 6. I was 31, suddenly a widow with 2 children and a mortgage. I worked graveyard shifts at the paper mill, came home smelling like bleach and ink, slept 4 hours, then got them ready for school. I cleaned houses on weekends. I sold my wedding ring to pay for Daniel's braces. I took out a second mortgage so Rebecca could go to state college on a partial scholarship. When Daniel wanted to start his construction company in 2002, I gave him $38,000, every cent I'd saved from overtime, for equipment and licensing. When it almost failed in 2008, I refinanced the house again and handed him another $27,000 to cover payroll so his men wouldn't quit. He never paid it back. He never offered. When Rebecca's first marriage ended in 2011, I let her and the 2 kids move in rent-free for 3 years. I paid the utilities, groceries, daycare. $1,800 a month in help. That became permanent. When she remarried, I paid $22,000 toward their new house down payment because they deserved a fresh start. Grandkids' needs never stopped. $14,000 in medical copays over the years, $9,500 for college application fees and campus visits, $6,200 for sports equipment and travel teams, $11,000 in car loans co-signed and then quietly paid off when payments were missed. Over the last 15 years alone, I had transferred $124,700 in cash, gifts, forgiven loans. They called it family support. Called it survival. They thought I lived on Social Security and a tiny widow's pension. They never asked how I always had money when they called in a panic. They never wondered why I still drove a 2004 Ford pickup with 280,000 miles while they traded in for new trucks every few years. What they didn't know, what I had kept silent about since 2004, was Uncle Raymond's bequest. My father's brother died childless that year. He left me 160 acres of timberland in northern Wisconsin, including a 4-bedroom cedar log cabin on a private lake. I never told the children. I spent summers up there alone, replacing the roof, insulating the walls, installing a septic system, adding solar panels. Then I hired a management company to rent it as a vacation property. The income rolled in month after month, compounded in index funds, municipal bonds, dividend aristocrats. Today the account balance, plus the land value, was $687,000. Enough to live comfortably for another 30 years. Enough that I didn't need their pity, their occasional holiday invites, their conditional affection. That 4th of July night, staring at the numbers by flashlight, the last thread of hope I'd clung to snapped. I wasn't old and washed up. I was the reason they had roofs, educations, second chances. And they had repaid me with mockery. The next morning, Independence Day, I made the calls. First, my financial advisor in Milwaukee. Cancel every automatic transfer to Daniel's and Rebecca's accounts. Revoke all linked cards, joint access, anything with my name on it. He paused. Ellen, are you sure? I've been sure for a long time. I just stopped lying to myself. Next, my attorney, Ms. Patel, who had handled my affairs since 1995. Rewrite the will. The house, the Wisconsin property, all investments, everything, goes to a scholarship fund for widows returning to school, in memory of my husband. Irrevocable trusts for the grandchildren at age 35. Accessible only if they initiate and maintain genuine, unprompted contact for at least 3 years. No holiday guilt calls. No just checking in texts. Real relationship or nothing. Then the letters. To Daniel. Last night you stood in front of your children and handed me a card that called me washed up and wished me gone. You laughed while I cried. For 58 years I gave you everything, my sleep, my savings, my spine. Graveyard shifts so you could play baseball. $38,000 to start your company. $27,000 to save it. Countless nights I went without so you wouldn't. You saw my help as your right. My silence as permission. My love as something to joke about. Am not bitter. Am awake. All financial support ends today. The lake cabin in Wisconsin. Yes, I own one, will be my home. Do not call asking for money. Do not send the grandchildren to soften the blow. If you ever want your mother back, you will have to prove you value the woman who carried you, not the wallet that carried you. Your mother, Ellen. Rebecca's letter was shorter. The truth didn't need more words. I printed them on good paper, sealed them in envelopes, and left them on the kitchen table next to the uneaten potato salad I'd made for the reunion. Then I packed 3 suitcases. Clothes for all seasons, my husband's pocket watch, the photo albums, my sewing machine, a box of seeds I'd been saving to plant. I locked the front door, slid the key under the mat for the realtor, and drove north. The cabin smelled of cedar and lake water. Loons called across the water as I unlocked the door. The great room had windows on 3 sides. Pine trees, water, sky. I built a fire in the stone fireplace even though it was July, just to hear the crackle. I sat on the porch with a mug of tea and watched the sun set behind the ridge, turning the lake to molten gold. No more waiting for phone calls that started with, "Hey Mom, quick question." No more hoping gratitude would arrive someday. No more pretending that being useful was the same as being loved. I am 78. I have a lake